Welcome to Doomercast number 2, the podcast where I talk about politics. Now, the first Doomercast was like an impromptu thing, and I don't know if I can capture that energy, but god damn it, I'm feeling fucking doomer right now. So, what I'm currently concerned about is the concept of fascism, right? So, there are 3 kinds of people who get called fascists, or actually 4 kinds of people. So, first of all, there's the people who we should be calling fascists. These are people who have fascist opinions and don't want people to know that they have fascist opinions, right? These are the people we unequivocally should call fascists. Every time you see one of these people, you should call them a fascist, right? If you see someone who has, fascist ideas, but who isn't actually beholden to them, you should just call those ideas fascist, right? That's not you shouldn't critique that person just because he somehow, or they, I guess, somehow managed to absorb some fascist talking point, right? So that's the second kind of person who gets called a fascist. People who just, absorb fascist talking points, whether intentionally as a form of comedy, or unintentionally because they're dumb, right? If you call these people fascists, you're fucking drunk. Because fascism isn't just about talking points, right? Fascism isn't like an ideology which is like, hey, who has fascist talking points? That's not the point of fascism. If you somehow manage to absorb a fascist talking point, that just means you made a mistake at some point. Or maybe you're just trying to make a joke, which is completely fine. I think people should be able to make jokes. If you make people choose between making jokes or not being a fascist, people would rather be a funny fascist than a boring person who isn't a fucking fascist. This is basically universal. Most people would choose to be funny rather than not to be a fascist, right? So if you say that, hey, you can't make a joke where you, use fascist critiques of certain things or use certain themes that fascists also talk about, then you're just fucking holding yourself back because you're pushing people towards fascism by saying that fascism is the only fucking funny political position, right? Then there's the third kind of person who gets called a fascist. These are fascists who admit that they're fascists, right? And you should not call these people fascists either, because it's self-evident. They already do that for you. What you can do for them is you can call them not a fascist, right? You can tell them, hey, you're not big and scary, because to them, when you call them a fascist, it just means you call them a dominant alpha male with more power than you. That's what it means when you call them a fascist, right? It doesn't mean hey, you're pointing out this empirical truth, right? Everyone can see that they're a fascist because they say that they're a fascist, unless people are in denial about it, in which case you should call them a fascist. If you were like, hey, Vive is a fascist, right? Oh, Vive is a fascist. What do you think Vive would think of that? What do you think anyone would think of that? Maybe if they're uninformed that the guy who fucking ran the back end of the Daily Stormer is a fascist, then I guess you can call Vive a fascist if no one knows who Vive is, right? But if people know who Vive is and you just call him a fascist, you're just fucking pointing out the obvious, right? That's not interesting. That doesn't push the narrative forward. Now the narrative you could be creating is Vive is too much of a pussy to be a fascist. He's a fucking bitch. He isn't even a real fascist. He's just a nerdy neckbeard who thinks fascism is cool, so he wants to be a fascist, right? That's how you can approach Vive. Or if you see one of these LARPers, you can just be like, oh, you're a LARPer. Oh, you're just like a normie con who LARPs as a fascist. That's this fucking route you should take. You shouldn't fucking validate fascism. If you tell fascists how scary they are, they get a fucking hard on. People who are inclined towards fascism like being fascists, right? Then there's the fourth kind of person who gets called a fascist. These are the people who aren't fascists by any standard. Maybe they have some fascists in their head. Everyone has some fascists in their head, right? But these people are not fascists. If you call them fascists, you're just showing the world that you're wrong. And then when you go to call people who pretend not to be fascists, but who really are fascists, and if you go and call them a fascist, right? Then you're just making your own point untrustworthy and unreliable. So if you call people who aren't fascistic in any like actual substantive way fascists, then you're just discrediting yourself. Right? However, this is a list of things that you're allowed to call fascist, and you always should call fascist, because these are fascist things that pretend that they're not fascist. Gender, race, grammar, the state, the police, the military. Another thing I want to talk about is Liebschutz and other bottom of the barrel left-wingers who don't understand what power is. Because every time you go and tell a fucking your political opponent that they're powerful, you lose. Whenever you go like, wow guys, this is so scary, Trump is taking over America, you fucking lose. Because first of all, you admitted that Trump has more power than you. You literally just went like, hey, you know what, I'm powerless, I can't influence the world, I don't have a stake in any of this, I'm a fucking Liebschut, I'm powerless. And even worse is when you have power and pretend that you don't, where you're like this fucking neoliberal fucking overlord and go like, I'm an oppressed woman, because at that point everyone can see the contradiction. You're literally like a fucking one of the most powerful people on the planet, and you're trying to basically gentrify power in order to make yourself the victim. Now, this can be explained in the terms of narcissism, because there are two kinds of narcissism. There's the overt narcissism, and then there's the covert narcissism. We can just like extrapolate that into cowardly power and like alpha power, I guess, like alpha male power and beta male power, right? The way that like the alpha, the brave, ballsy, stud power happens is when someone recognizes that they have power or pretends to have power. That's how the alpha power works, right? That's how like literally everyone who wants to like be respected or accomplish something utilizes power. They go like, I'm powerful, and then there's a human instinct to follow power. There's a human instinct to accrue power and to follow power. That's how humans work. That's how human brains work. When you say, I have power, you have power. That's what matters. You testify your own strength, right? You're responsible for confirming how powerful you yourself are. Other people's testimony is also important, and if you have power and no one else recognizes it, obviously it isn't like real power. It's like a perceived illusory power at that point. And then that's why narcissism is like wrong, because people don't understand that like narcissists don't actually have power, and then they pretend to have power, and when people realize that they have power, they go like, why have I been following someone who doesn't actually have power? But then there's the left-wing Liebschut kind of power, right? This is the covert narcissism. This is the cowardly power, where instead of being like, I'm powerful, they play off of pity and the human like desire to protect the weakest members of its tribe. So instead of being powerful by pretending to be strong, they try to accrue power by pretending to be weak, so people would help them, so people would feel empathy and compassion towards them. This is why all of the left-wingers go like, hey, I'm like 1/8 Jewish, so like, you're a Nazi and you want to kill me in a Holocaust, right? This is what all of them do. Like, even if they aren't actually an 1/8 Jewish, they will still pretend to be like fucking an 1/8 Jewish, right? Or like this is when like whenever like you fucking hear a left winger go like, well, I can't really like contend with right wingers online, they're like harassing me all the time. Because at that point they're the victim, right? They fucking go like, hey, all of these people are harassing me. They are in the wrong, right? They're in the wrong. They don't actually care about having power, but rather they care about having power, but they don't care about presenting themselves as if they had power. They only care about like the illusion of being weak in order to just become more and more powerful over time. And this is why leftists have such a problem with people like Walsh, who clearly is utilizing the alpha form of power, right? Walsh isn't utilizing the, oh, I'm so weak, I'm a victim, look at how society has mistreated me, look at how I need to be helped, right? Walsh goes like, I'm an alpha, I have a big dick, and then everyone just fucking goes like, you're a fucking bad person. You don't subscribe to our theory of power, basically. You don't subscribe to the theory that power is just a matter of who is the weakest, because we should help the weakest, and so the weakest are the fucking most powerful. And this is why fucking all of these dipshit leftists just like to have like this fucking obsession with like either the state or some revolutionary coup, where they just go like, I'm going to be helped by the revolution. I'm going to be helped by the state. If I have this put on everyone's throats, I will have power, right? They literally don't want actual fucking change. They don't actually want to enact their values. They just want the fucking state to come and fucking enact all of the fucking things they want, because they don't want to ever fucking be faced with having to admit that they have power. They don't have to go out and be like, hey, I have power. They want someone else to get power for them and utilize it for their ends. And they're going to fucking be fucking cowardly betas to get it, right? Now, this is why I respect the fucking Twitch dear girl, the fucking Trust and Safety Commission, fucking gamer, Karen, fucking whoever. It's not like, oh, she's trans, I hate her, oh, she fucking thinks she's a deer, I don't fucking care. People can do whatever the fuck they want, right? But she realizes that she has power, and that's why all of the fucking people who respect alpha power are so terrified of her, because she says, I am powerful, you can't fucking stop me, right? She says that she is more powerful than you, and they recognize it. They recognize that someone has the word power, and she's not fucking scared enough to admit it. She doesn't go oh, I'm just a bureaucrat doing my job. No, she goes I have power, and I will use it, and you're a white supremacist, and I will get rid of you. You should be afraid of me, right? That's utilizing alpha power, right? Even though, oh, she's this colored, dyed hair trans girl, right? And usually they would just be oh, I'm such a victim, I'll get Twitch to ban someone. No, she goes I have the biggest fucking dick in the room. I'm more powerful than you. You can't contend with me. You don't have any power in the situation where I have all the fucking power. And that's why they're so fucking afraid of her. Now, I don't support moderation. I'm anti-moderation in general. I think moderation ends up with bad results in almost every circumstance. And it's just she's not a part of my ideological core of my tribe, right? I would rather prefer there to be no moderation. But the fact that she can admit that, and she can have a solid grasp of power, that's what fucking makes it so terrifying to all of these people. This is why this is going to be Gamergate 2. This is contrasted with all of these fucking Zoomer, trad, fucking e-Catholics or whatever, who completely play into the beta power. They literally, if you look at fucking Dickie Spencer, Nicky Boy, any of these fucking faggots, they don't go oh, I'm powerful. They can't fucking do that. When they try, they end up failing because they're betas. They're spiritually betas. Their fucking entire mind is corrupted by a beta male mindset, right? They're beta males. They can't fucking project alpha power. All they can do is just contend on who can be the most flamboyantly fucking charismatic speaker. They can literally just try to be more gay, right? They can just try to get that they can just LARP as an alpha powerhouse, but they will always be beta internally. They will always be cowards, which is why they talk like cowards, which is why they act like cowards, and most importantly why they behave like cowards and have the thoughts and opinions of fucking cowards. This is also true with Ben Shapiro. This is also true with Paul Joseph Watson. This is true with literally whoever goes oh, conservatism is the new punk rock, because that means they want to be a subculture so they can get the fucking beta power. They literally want to present themselves as fucking betas. They don't want to be the dominant position, because being the dominant position would mean being the fucking alpha and having to actually have reified power. And they can't fucking do it. They're fucking losers. And this is why you should fucking call all of them out as just being fucking losers, because that's what they are. That's what they're afraid of being. That's why they constantly fucking have to LARP. You can describe most of what I like in the world with 4 words: free and open source. Now, this is the most obvious in software, where you can use stuff like GIMP or Kdenlive to just edit your stuff and do the things that you need to do without having to use proprietary software, and stuff like that. So software is easy. It's free and open source is better than closed source fucking proprietary software that you have to pay for. This is self-evident to most people who have a capacity to think for themselves. Right. I would be running Linux if I had the energy to, but sadly I don't really have the energy to just put up with everything needed to run Linux. So I'm just gonna use Windows because I'm a fucking loser and convenience is more important to me than being based. So that's just one concession I make for my own mental shortcomings, which is I don't use Linux, I use Windows. Now, I would be using Windows 7 except my hardware literally doesn't run Windows 7, they need to fucking use Windows 10. So I'm running Windows 10. That's just how it ends up going, even though I fucking hate this OS. I would rather use any other OS except like Mac OS, I guess. But since this is by far the most convenient piece of software, like, if I was to use Linux, I would miss out on a lot of things I need to like properly use the internet and stuff. And like do everything I want to. Because it's just fucking game development, for example, doesn't happen for Linux. And there are some games I really want to play. Now I have toyed around with the idea of dual booting my computer, but that takes so much fucking effort. And if I just use an USB stick to boot up Linux, it gets so fucking slow that it's not really even worth using. Anyway, with that aside, that's not the only thing that should be free and open source, right? One other example that's really practical and real is fucking recipes. Recipes are completely free and open source. That's what recipes are, right? They're like literally food that like anyone can compile by cooking it, right? And modify as you wish, and you can just share recipes for free. Now some recipes are paid and so on and so on, some recipes are closed source because it's like trade secrets and such, which I think is really gay. I think every recipe should be free and open source, much like I think everything should be free and open source. Like if you're an artist, right, I think the ideal form of being an artist is making like all of your original files available with the layers, with the fucking color information and so on. Like I think art should be free and open source. I think if you draw something, you should make it free and open source. Now, with the current climate and technology, this is incredibly inconvenient. And this is obviously there should be like a proprietary period where you just keep your art for yourself and you don't like promote remixing it and creating something new from your art. Like, that makes perfect sense. Like, if you want to keep your art for yourself for like 2 months, 6 months, a year, that's completely reasonable. I think there should be like a social expectation that like, if art has existed for long enough, it should enter like not just the public domain, but being completely free and open source. I think like obviously like the profit motive of the current society demands like temporary sole proprietorship, right? Whether this is accomplished through laws or social norms, I don't really care. But I think what we should be working towards is making everything just free and open source. Movies. Imagine how many movies would be so much improved if fans were given the entirety of the footage to re-edit into a different movie, right? If every movie you had all of the fucking shots that like were like at least relevant, right? If you had all of the takes that weren't failures, if like, for example, if a movie has been out for, let's say, 5 years, this is a reasonable period. Just exclusive ownership for a movie for 5 years. For me, this is completely reasonable. But after a movie has been out for 5 years, a studio should be at least expected to release all of the footage that they made to fucking shoot that movie, all of the music they used, and so on and so on and so on, so you could reconstruct and compile the movie yourself and make it to fit your own specificities. Like, I've re-edited movies. Like, if I don't like a movie sometimes, like, if I hate the movie enough but I think the footage is good enough, I'll fucking re-edit it, I don't fucking care. Like, I have like an entire recut version of Bandersnatch, the Netflix choose your own adventure movie, because I think all of the paths are shit. So I just compiled all of the best footage into the path I thought was cool. Now, no one has seen this movie, at least to my knowledge, and I don't even know if I have it anywhere. Like, I could probably dig it up in, like, Mega or something, because, I put it in Mega at some point. But yeah, that's a movie that exists, that only I have seen, that I just completely recut, because I had enough footage to make it into a different movie. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna just fucking make this into a different movie, I'm just gonna recut it, right? The same should apply to music. You should fucking release all of your stems when your music has been out for long enough, right? Anyone should be able to master any piece of music. Like, the fucking fact that the control of mastering is fucking in the hands of people who just are concerned with, like, specific aesthetics has made so many songs so much worse. Like, imagine if anyone could just master any song. If you could just take the vocals and put it onto a different beat in 5 minutes. Not even fucking 5 minutes, in 2 minutes, in a minute, right? If you could just put the vocals on a different beat in a minute, imagine how many fucking cool songs would happen. But right now, that process takes fucking days or months even sometimes, right? This is a long and arduous process. While music should be fucking free and open source, it benefits so much from remixes and remasters and just completely different versions of a fucking piece of music. But again, We live in a fucking shitty society, and not everything is free and open source. Everything should be free, everything should be open source. Animation, we should have all of the fucking keyframes, all of the fucking frames. We should be able to just completely change animation. I fucking hate copyright. I fucking hate copyright so much. I fucking hate the fact that technology can't be free and open source. This is my fucking prime concern in society. This is my fucking prime. This is what makes me the angriest, the most consistently. Sure, there are things that I absolutely hate. But this specific issue is what just pisses me off by far the most. Is the fact that there are fucking exclusive ownership over things that should be remixed and things that should be fucking appreciated for free. Use shit that's free, use shit that's open source, and if you use anything else, fucking get it for free, fucking pirate it, don't pay for technology. If you pay for technology, you're a fucking cuck. Pay for the people who develop the technology if you want to fucking pay for technology. Don't fucking buy massive corporate projects. Don't fucking buy AAA games. If you want to play a game and you want to support the developer, play a fucking indie game. Play fucking indie games. But everything should be indie, everything should be free, everything should be open source. Fuck corporations. Like, I don't want an operating system. I don't want fucking Windows. I don't want any of this shit. I want fucking Linux. Except I don't fucking use Linux because it's inconvenient. But everyone should use Linux, because then everyone would use Linux, and then Linux would be objectively superior. The grift is that Windows has been so popular for so long that everyone hasn't made the switch to Linux, even though it's fucking objectively superior to Windows by every metric, except we're just fucking all cocked by our mutual refusal to switch over to Linux.